Hi, welcome back to Selling Intelligence. I'm Mark Petruzzi, your co-host, and this is part 2 of our conversation. And guess what? We're going to pick up exactly where we left off, and we're going to get into what really drives results.
And I'm KK Anderson. Selling Intelligence is brought to you by Accelerant Growth Solutions, AGS. Join us each week as we break down the strategies, decisions, and execution moves that are driving growth in today's market.
Welcome back to Selling Intelligence. I'm Mark Petruzzi.
And I'm KK Anderson. This is part 2 with Dr. Noah St. John. Be sure to go back and listen to part 1. But if you want to start here, let us bring you up to speed. Noah has spent close to 30 years studying why capable people underperform. He has written 27 books and coined the term human-AI gap, the distance between 200,000-year-old brains, the caveman as he calls it, and the fastest technology ever built, which of course is AI. In part 1, he drew the line between mindset, which the industry has worn out, and what he calls the inner game, the unconscious programming that decides whether skill and technology ever get used.
In part 2, we get to the operator level, what Noah's highest growth clients do differently and what the inner game looks like under real quota and board pressure. Noah, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's go to our first topic of our second episode with Noah, and that is high tech requires high touch, the trust recession. You guys all know out there, we talk about that trust recession often, and we really want to get some perspective from Noah on this as well. So Noah, you also has talked about a trust recession in this space where there's too many people with strong marketing skills and weak teaching ability, or strong sales skills and weak coaching ability. How does that dynamic show up for a B2B buyer who is evaluating a coaching or advisory investment right now?
Well, I mean, this is a huge topic, and I do talk about it a lot, as you mentioned. So very simply, it's exactly what you were saying, is that there are a lot of great marketers, great self-promoters, great salesmen who suck at teaching. They suck at coaching. There's no there, as I like to say. There's no there. And so the problem is the very problem, because they're so good at self-promotion and marketing. Just lots and lots of people bought their stuff. They gave them money and they found out there's nothing here. Hello, what the heck is going on here? They promised the sun, moon, and the stars, and they gave me a pile of dirt. So it's really, really bad. I have my own spreadsheet. I call it the spreadsheet of death, because I paid all these clowns tons of money. I mean, much more money than I'd like to admit, only to find out they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. So it's really bad. Now, obviously, I'm not alone in that. I spent a lot more than most people, probably. But the point is that, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have experienced the same thing that I have, which is, hello, you didn't tell me anything. So it's incredibly annoying. And it's frustrating, and it's painful, and it's costly. And so I think one of the things that we have to do as leaders, if you are evaluating a B2B or a B2C program, and when I say life-changing, I know that sounds like a cliche again, but that is what it really is, because that has always been my focus, is taking care of the 3 pounds of gray matter that really is just ignored for the most part. And so one of the things that I think people need to do is look at the case studies. Look at the case studies, the real people who have gone through a program, including Gary Vaynerchuk, Jenny McCarthy, Stephen Covey, Jack Canfield, John Assaraf, Neil Donald Walsh. I mean, the luminaries go on. And then, of course, just the regular, everyday CEO, CMO, CRO, entrepreneur. I've always said this, that it's much more important that people have gotten results rather than I say how much money I've made. Because when you look at those gurus out there, that's what they're always talking about. I made all this money. Look at my yacht. Look at my boat. Look at my helicopter. Now, nothing wrong with that. We all want nice things, right? We all want yachts and boats and helicopters. Nothing wrong with that. But my question always is, well, have you helped anyone else? And usually the answer to that question is, what? So that's the problem. And so maybe I went overboard the other way. Maybe I've gone too far the other way. I don't know. But I'd rather brag about my clients than me. You'll notice I talk way more about my clients than myself for that precise reason. Because we live in a trust recession, I'm always like, well, don't believe what I say. And I'll just have to say this because everybody knows it's there right now. You also have to make sure that those are actual human beings on a video. Like, because of course we all know that AI can create AI user-generated content now. And it's pretty easy to spot still today at the time of this recording. I mean, I can tell in 1 second, and I think most people can too. I mean, but you just got to be careful because hell is the greatest thing in the world. Wait a minute, is that a human or not a human? I just might want to check that.
Yeah. And, you could even ask, like, hey, are you human or are you not? Even when you're chatting with a website, is this an AI agent or is this a human that's named Linda, right?
Exactly. Well, I was talking about just the videos, the actual videos that, I mean, we see AI UGC all over the place now. And again, as I said, it's relatively easy to spot now, but is it always going to be easy to spot? Probably not. I mean, it's just going to keep getting better and better. So you better get in now before it gets worse.
So when you think about what high touch actually looks like in practice for you at this point in your business, talk to me a little bit about how, thanks to AI and creating the trust recession, and then we have to go back now and accommodate for that. Like, what does that look like for you and your business and for your clients? What's
well, I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. At least in my case, what we do is a very simple intake form, and we see where you are. We get a baseline of where you are over the last 12 months. By the way, when you
but to even get to that point where they're interested, like that marketing process.
So I talked about the caveman, but there's also a caveman calculator. So that's one of the things that I love is the caveman calculator. And you can actually see how much the caveman is costing you right now. So that's a really important point of if you haven't learned how to tame the caveman in your brain, you're going to be paying the caveman. You're going to be paying, as I call it, the caveman tax, because at absolutely 1,000,000% is going to be holding you back. Like Adam, that story I mentioned earlier. It takes longer to close a client typically now than it ever did for that precise reason. So, as a business owner, you want to make sure that you're putting out correct content, both in terms of video and articles, blog posts, books, etc. Right? So that's the point, that is why we do operate with high tech, high touch. And that's one of the ways that we do it, is making sure that everybody is accounted for at the level they're at the time.
Okay, that's super interesting. And Noah, we're going to jump to the next topic, and we're going to touch back on the inner game a little bit, but specifically as it relates to a revenue operator. And I know you've worked with CEOs and leaders of all different types of businesses. And so, and kind of thinking about that experience, like when you strip away the tactics and the tools, what is the inner game pattern that separates those client that has the exponential 600% growth from one that's kind of stalls at 30%?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when people listen to me, they get enormous growth. If they don't, they won't.
Well, they listen to you, which means they do the work.
Exactly. And see,
why would they not listen? Like, what are the reasons?
Well,
why they don't?
When you pay me money, you listen. That's the beautiful. The people who invest, right? When they invest, they're invested. And that means, boom, I want my ROI. I want my return on investment. Boom, I'm going to take action. One of the things that I've known for is helping people to take action where they had been stalled previously, right? I'll give you another example. I mean, I was talking with another client of mine, and he has a very big biodiesel fuel, a 9-figure business. And he is not a very loquacious person, very soft-spoken, very hard close to the vest and so forth. And one of the times that we were talking in one of our earlier sessions, he said to me, Noah, I have a Bachelor of Science from a major university. I'm not going to say the name of the university. Now, I almost fell off my chair when he said that, because this is not a man known for being loquacious and being big with his words. And I was like, wow, no kidding. Okay. And now he has gone on to actually sell that company and make a very nice exit. My point of that is that when you invest, you're invested. So for those of you listening and thinking that whether it's yourself or your team, so if you are a CRO who is pulling your hair out because you're saying, but Noah, I've given my team everything. I've given them all the tools, all the training, all of the things that they should just be exploding. I will always ask you, but have you helped them with their inner game, or is that all outer game stuff? That's why I started this conversation with that Venn diagram I talked about. I mean, inner game, outer game. 99% of people are spending all their time, money, and effort on outer game. It's not wrong. You have to do it. But have you spent any time on the inner game?
So you're teaching the leaders then how to coach their teams on the inner game, or are you coaching the teams directly?
Well, both. It depends on what they want. Like I talked about, it's all bespoke and customized and personalized. So that goes back to the licensing that I was talking about. There's no more guesswork.
So Noah, revenue leaders are under enormous pressure right now.
Yes.
A
Yes.
special amount of pressure that we really haven't seen throughout at least my career. They're dealing with this AI transition process, their overall team capacity, quota, and then the boards have gotten a lot more direct and vocal, going after sales leaders as well. So what does the inner game look like when the stakes are as high as they are and the timelines are as short as they are?
Well, it's an incredibly stressful situation. You're absolutely right. And that's just something that I help people with every single day. But the point is that AI has really changed the perspective of a lot of people in this way. They believe, mostly incorrectly, that if I just toss AI at this, then it'll solve all my problems. I'll make all this money. I'll give you an example of how this didn't work. And by the way, this was not a company that I was involved with, but Ford Motor Company, we all know Ford Motor Company. They recently made big headlines because they fired all their what's called the graybeards, right? All the guys that had been on the front lines. The engineers had been there for 30, 40 years, right? So Ford got all excited about AI and said, we don't need these gray beards, right? It's those annoying humans I was talking about earlier. We're paying them all this money. We don't need them. Hey, all right, we'll let them go and we'll let the AI run the whole schlemiel. Did not work out so well. So what did they have? They had billions of dollars. They saved millions, yes, and maybe tens of millions. But they had billions of dollars in recalls because the AI didn't understand all the things the graybeards knew. The graybeards just know this without even thinking, right? So it's not like a graybeard, and you understand the term that I'm using there, right? That someone who's just been on the front lines doing this, they do it without thinking. They're literally unconscious. So they don't even know. They just do things because they know how to do things. But if they even were to sit down and say, try to train an AI in what they know, they couldn't even do it anyway because they might be able to tell them, say 80%, but there's 20% that they don't even know they know. Does that make sense? They're unconsciously competent. And so the point is Ford it was very embarrassing, egg on the face. We got to hire all the graybeards back and oops, sorry about all those recalls. Do you see what I mean? So that's an example of how AI is not a magic solution. It's not a magic pill, but it does, as you mentioned earlier, it accelerates what's already there. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to bridge that human AI gap. We want humans and AI working together. And I think that is the future.
Excellent. Really good stuff, Noah.
I was very excited to get money, on the internet. Remember internet? Yay. Internet from literally countries I never even heard of. And it was very exciting.
Okay. Favorite CRO or CEO that you follow?
Gosh, my favorite CEO, I guess, today is a name that is somewhat controversial, but Alex Hormozy. Some people know him, some people don't. But I think he's pretty good. He does a nice job. And of course, Gary Vee, my good friend Gary Vee, is always good for a great story and great motivation.
Yes. I enjoy Alex's content as well and Gary's content.
That is surveys. Surveys are useless. Sorry. And the reason is very simple because human beings will tell you what they think you want to hear and will do something totally different. So pre-market or go-to-market surveys are essentially useless. The best thing to do is just put up an ad, put up a quick sales page, run some traffic to it, see if anybody buys it. Boom, we're done.
Okay, Noah, my favorite question. Advice you would give your 21-year-old self?
Don't buy from those friggin' idiots. Get away from that spreadsheet of death. Do your homework, son. Go past the headlines. Go past the marketing speak. Don't believe them until you do your homework. That's what I wish I would have known.
Nice.
You've been burned. You've been burned.
Okay. Our last one is your favorite sales or marketing book.
You know what? It always goes back to the classics for me. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I just don't see how you can go wrong with that one.
I love it. Noah, this has been a great conversation and exactly the kind of conversation we have built this show for. So thank you for the clarity you bring to this. Thank you for the inner game and your knowledge transfer there, the human AI gap, and the practical path through it. Where should people go to find your work?
Go to noahstjohn.com. That's my name, noahstjohn.com. Easy to remember.
I love it. You've said that a time or two, huh?
Indeed.
Okay, we will put all of that in the show notes. And if what Noah said about the inner game is sitting with you, again, that's the work we do inside the 2mm Club, which is our small group data-driven coaching program for frontline sales managers. They learn to identify and coach the small shifts in seller behavior that add up to exponential movement in pipeline. Cohorts launch monthly, and we'd love to have your sales managers join us. You can apply at www.get-ags.com/2mm club.
And if this conversation was useful, please send it to the leader or team member that you know who you think needs it most. I'm Mark Petruzzi.
And I'm KK Anderson, and this is Selling Intelligence. We will see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and found it valuable. If you did, like and share it with your network. That's the best way to support us and the work we're doing here at AGS. And if you're curious where your sales team stacks up in the AI era, head to get-ags.com. That's get and the dash symbol ags.com for a complimentary sales team benchmark. Until next time,